The story of three little pigs. Once upon a time, three little pigs set off to build their own homes. Each pig had a different idea of what made a good house. The first pig was lazy. He quickly built his house out of straw so he could have more time to play. "This will do just fine," he cheered. The second pig wanted a stronger house, but still didn't want to work too hard. He used sticks to build his home. "This is much sturdier than straw," he said proudly. The third pig was wise. He worked long and hard, stacking heavy bricks and using cement to build a strong house. "This will keep me safe," he said, wiping his brow. One day, a big, bad wolf appeared, hungry and looking for food. He saw the first pig's straw house and licked his lips. The wolf took a deep breath and blew as hard as he could. Whoosh! The straw house collapsed instantly. The first pig ran to his brother's stick house just in time. The wolf followed and arrived on the stick house. The wolf huffed and puffed, and snap! Crack! The stick house crumbled. The two pigs ran as fast as they could to their brother's brick house. The wolf followed and arrived on the brick house. The wolf took his biggest breath ever and blew with all his might, but the brick house didn't move. He tried again and again, but the house stood strong. Exhausted and defeated, the wolf gave up and ran away, never to be seen again. The three pigs cheered and hugged each other. The first pig sighed, "Next time, I'll work harder." The second pig nodded, "Me too. Hard work is worth it." The third pig smiled, "A strong foundation always wins." From that day on, they all built brick houses and lived happily ever after.
This is the story of the mighty lion and the tiny mouse. In the heart of the vast golden savanna, under the shade of a mighty acacia tree, a powerful lion lay peacefully asleep. His golden mane shimmered in the sunlight as he rested, his deep breath slow and steady, till a tiny mouse came scurrying by. The little mouse, no bigger than a pebble, dashed across the soft grass searching for food. But as it hurried along, it didn't see the lion's massive paw in its path until it was too late. The mouse accidentally ran right over it. With a mighty roar, the lion's amber eyes snapped open. He pounced and trapped the tiny mouse beneath his enormous paw. "How dare you wake me?" the lion growled, his deep voice echoing through the trees. The little mouse shook with fear but quickly spoke up. "Please, mighty lion, spare me. I didn't mean to disturb you," it squeaked. "I may be small, but if you let me go, maybe one day I can help you." The lion paused, then burst into laughter. "You help me?" he chuckled, shaking his great mane. "That's the funniest thing I've heard all day." But feeling generous, he lifted his paw and let the little mouse go. The tiny creature scampered away, grateful for his life. Days later, the lion wandered deep into the jungle, unaware that hunters had set a trap nearby. Suddenly, snap! Thick ropes pulled tight around him, lifting him off the ground. The lion roared and thrashed, trying to break free, but the net was too strong. He roared for help, but who would dare to face the mighty lion's enemies? Just then, a small figure appeared. It was the tiny mouse. Seeing his friend in danger, the little mouse dashed forward and quickly gnawed at the thick ropes with his sharp teeth. Bite after bite, the ropes weakened, until finally, snap! The lion fell to the ground, free once more. The lion stood tall, shaking off the last bits of rope. He looked down at the mouse in amazement and gratitude. "You saved me," he said, his deep voice softer now. "I never thought someone so small could do something so great." The little mouse smiled. The lion nodded, a newfound respect in his eyes. From that day on, the lion and the mouse were the best of friends, proving that kindness is never wasted. This is the story of the Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time in a quiet countryside, a mother duck sat patiently on her nest, waiting for her eggs to hatch. One by one, the eggs cracked open, and out came 5 fluffy yellow ducklings, chirping happily. But one egg, the largest egg, still hadn't hatched. The mother duck tilted her head. "This egg is taking a long time," she said. Finally, with a loud crack, the big egg broke open, and out tumbled a strange-looking duckling. He was larger than the others, with gray feathers instead of soft yellow. The other ducklings stared and whispered, "He looks so different." As the days passed, the little gray duckling tried to play with his brothers and sisters, but they teased and laughed at him. "You're so ugly," they quacked. Even the other animals on the farm made fun of him. No one wanted to be his friend. Feeling sad and lonely, the ugly duckling ran away. He wandered through the fields and forests, searching for a place where he would belong. Along the way, he met other animals, but no one welcomed him because of how he looked. As winter arrived, the days grew colder. The ugly duckling found shelter near a frozen pond, shivering as snowflakes fell around him. "Why am I so different?" he sighed. He felt more alone than ever. One day, as the snow began to melt and spring returned, the ugly duckling stretched his wings and glided across the pond. In the distance, he saw a group of beautiful white birds, elegant swans swimming gracefully. Afraid they might tease him too, the ugly duckling lowered his head. But when he bent down to drink some water, he saw something amazing. His reflection in the pond had changed. He was no longer a clumsy gray duckling. Over the winter, he had grown into a majestic white swan with gleaming feathers and a long, graceful neck. The other swans swam over and smiled. "You're one of us now," they said kindly. For the first time, the ugly duckling felt happy and accepted. He had never been ugly, he had just been different. And now he had found where he truly belonged. From that day on, the once ugly duckling glided proudly across the water, knowing that being different was what made him special all along. Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, in a tiny cottage on the edge of a village, a poor boy named Jack lived with his mother. They had little to eat, and their only possession of value was an old cow. One morning, Jack's mother sighed as she looked at their empty pantry. "Jack, we have no choice," she said. "Take our cow to the market and sell her for the best price you can get." As Jack led the cow to the market, he met a strange old man dressed in a cloak. "Where are you going with that cow, young man?" the man asked. Jack explained his task, and the old man smiled. "I will give you something far more valuable than money. Magic beans." Jack hesitated, but, fascinated by the man's promise, traded the cow for the beans and rushed home excitedly, eager to show his mother the magical beans. But instead of being happy, she was furious. "You traded our only cow for these useless beans?" she cried. In frustration, she threw the beans out the window. Jack sighed, feeling foolish and disappointed, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake. As the sun rose the next morning, Jack gasped in amazement. Outside his window stood an enormous beanstalk, twisting high into the clouds. Its thick green vines sparkled in the sunlight, and its giant leaves swayed in the wind. Without hesitation, Jack grabbed hold of the vines and began to climb. He found himself in a strange, magical land above the clouds. In the distance stood an enormous stone castle with golden rooftops and tall spires, and he journeyed towards the giant castle. As he entered, he spotted a giant fast asleep on the floor. His eyes then wandered to the far side of the room where a table held a remarkable sight, a hen that laid golden eggs. Jack stood in awe, completely mesmerized. Suddenly the ground trembled, and a deep, thunderous voice echoed through the halls. "Roar! I smell the blood of a little boy!" The giant stirred, his eyes snapping open as he spotted Jack. Jack quickly rushed forward and grabbed the goose that laid golden eggs, heading straight for the gate, racing back to the beanstalk. The giant gave chase and shouted, "Thief!" Jack climbed down the beanstalk as fast as his hands and feet could carry him. The giant followed, his booming footsteps shaking the sky. As soon as Jack reached the ground, he grabbed an axe and swung with all his might. The beanstalk shook and cracked, and it crashed down, sending the giant tumbling away. Jack and his mother cheered, knowing they would never be poor again with the golden goose by their side.